Inside the X is a short newsletter every Friday designed to give you some fun right before the weekend. It'll include links to blog posts, articles, books, quotes, and recent purchases I've made. Everything is handpicked to add value to your life. To join, email entertainmentxpodcast@gmail.com.
Good morning, Vietnam!
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't fly!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're gonna get.
For this episode, I sit down with John Bolton, who's playing Vlad in Anastasia on Broadway. John and I have a wonderful conversation that takes a bunch of twists and turns. He actually gives a lot of great advice for young performers, really any performers in live theater, any form of entertainment, regarding views towards the craft, work ethic, ways of being with other people in your cast or in your community. And I personally learned a lot, and it was just a wonderful chit chat that him and I had. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did having the conversation with John. Enjoy. We're back, and today with me is John Bolton. John, thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Clay, thank you.
This is fun. We met through Phil O'Brien at West 42nd Street Magazine December launch party, and I read a nice article you did with Wes on reviewing old fashions in Hell's Kitchen.
Well, it was a dirty job, but someone had to do it. We went to over 50 places in Hell's Kitchen and tried to find the best old-fashioned in town. Yeah. And we found several that we were able to recommend.
And the top-rated one I saw was P.S. Kitchen.
Yes, what a surprise. If you had told us the best old-fashioned in Hell's Kitchen was at a boutique vegan restaurant, we'd told you were crazy. But guess what? That's where it is. It's great. And of course, Gallagher's has a great one, tried and true, wonderful old steakhouse, and a fantastic one at the Lamb's Club, which we weren't able to include because it's just outside of Hell's Kitchen. But good old-fashions.
You know, it's funny. P.S. Kitchen did not pay us for this ad, neither did West 42nd Street, but P.S. Kitchen is where I've recorded a lot of these episodes.
Oh my gosh, right
Funny
upstairs
enough.
there.
So it's kind of like a fortuitous thing that you would review that, and now we meet.
And it's a great restaurant, and they're good people.
Yeah, they really are. Yeah. So let's get down to our conversation.
All right.
As a kid, what got you into music, theater, acting?
Oh gosh, having an active imagination, I think, is the main thing. And I had two much older brothers, 10 and 12 years older than me, who were very into sports. And I liked sports, but it was their thing, sort of. And it was just sort of expected that I do that as well. And my heart wasn't really into it because, again, that was what they did. I wanted to do what I did. And then whenever I would see kids on TV or on stage, I would be like, wow, that looks so fun. Look at what they get to do. There was a version of the Mickey Mouse Club out in the 70s when I was a kid, and I didn't give a crap about Mickey Mouse, but there were these amazingly talented, diverse kids between probably 9 and 14 singing and dancing their faces off, and I was just like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
So began sort of surrounding myself with cast albums and stuff. And my mom ran estate sales as a job. My dad was a banker. Mom ran estate sales, and a lot of the sales were old cast albums, Broadway show albums. Yeah. And she'd come home with a couple new ones for me. And of course, by the time I was a senior in high school, there were about 100 or so of them, alphabetized. And my parents took me to New York when I was quite young. We lived in Rochester, which is, a very short plane ride away. Yeah. And we saw probably a couple Broadway shows every year, and that was a wonderful introduction. And I'll tell you, Clay, from the first time we came when I was probably 6th, 7th grade, I knew I was going to live in New York City. I was like, this is where I'm going to live.
Was that a feeling? Was that getting off the plane? Is that just walking the streets?
I think it was just walking the streets, and that sounds so awful. I was walking the streets of 70s New York City. But no, it was seeing the theater community. And yeah, I got a real sense that it was indeed a wonderful community. of so many shows, not just one a year like the annual Rotary Club did, or whatever tour happened to come to Rochester once or twice a year. It was, or this annual school musical, it was all theater, 8 shows a week, and there were lots of shows to choose from, and they were all happening at once, and it was all happening in this magic area called Hell's Kitchen, Midtown. And I knew. Now, of course, then I thought that everyone stayed at the Waldorf and everyone, took cabs everywhere. So maybe that learning curve was a little different than I thought it was going to be when I did actually move here and had to eat a lot of ramen. But it was those early trips to New York, and I'm so grateful that we did those annual trips.
How old were you when you realized?
That? Oh, that's, how old are you in 6th grade? I guess 11,
grade. Okay.
12, and seeing Annie and being like, there are kids on that stage. Yeah, they were all girls, but I was like, why can't there be boy orphans? Yeah. But just seeing kids my age up on stage. And then speaking of Gallagher's, we went to Gallagher's Steakhouse before the show, I think, and Annie was being played by the wonderful Shelley Bruce at the time, and she was at the next table. And I was so starstruck.
Yeah.
So starstruck.
Oh my goodness.
There's me.
Okay, so then you decide, after the 6th grade, you decide, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you start to pursue it more directly?
No, there was really no outlet. There was the annual school musical, which I tried out for and didn't get in my first couple attempts, 7th and 8th grade. I was too young and awkward and hadn't really found my voice, so to speak. I could carry a tune, but it was sort of meek and be very self-conscious. It was the kind of thing I would do in my bedroom with the records blaring, but certainly not... A stupid little side story. I used to sing, in order to belt, I would open the freezer and belt into the freezer. I'm not sure why I would do that. I thought it was soundproof or something like that. And also to get some of the records in sort of the John key at the time, I would play them at 45, the sped up version.
Yeah.
So I could sing nothing from a chorus line. It was perfectly in my key, sped up at 45, singing into the freezer. I was a strange child. But no, there was the annual school musical and, chorus the first couple of years and a little tiny part, the pivotal role of Junior Babcock in Mame. And then we did The Wiz my senior year of high school, and we thought we were so cool, this mostly white production of The Wiz in Leroy, New York. But, I was really proud of it. I'm glad we got to do it. And we weren't picketed. And that sort of made me go, I think I can sing. But we had no one from my high school had ever gone on to do it. So no one ever said, is this something you'd like to do? And first of all, mainly I wasn't really good enough. Like the best you could say was that I had energy. Okay. But no training or technique or classes of any sort. So I majored in journalism and have a BA in journalism from a college in Rochester, New York. And while I was there, I sort of did as much community theater as possible and worked for the couple professional theaters that are in Rochester and got points toward my equity card by playing tiny roles in straight plays. And started directing high school musicals while I was in college and just trying to surround myself with anything theater. And it was like being in 2 college programs at the same time, because there are a lot of wonderful theater people in Rochester who I was able to learn a great deal from, previous professionals who had been here in New York, and some that didn't go but could have. And so I learned from all them.
Why journalism?
Because I could do it. I was good at it. I was a good writer and won some writing awards in high school, and I thought, well, let's pick something I can do and am apparently good at. So I chose that, and it wound up being more feature writing and news writing. Quirky stories like, here's a story about the world's largest taco, or stupid, or here's the Lizzie Borden house is now a bed and breakfast. Let's write a human interest story about that. Stupid things like that that I was good at. So.
Did you do any of that here when you moved here to pursue theater, or was it right into theater for you?
I had some temp jobs where I would edit. I was good at grammar and spelling, and so I would, the temp agency would rent me out as an editor, so to speak.
What were the beginning days for John Bolton when he moved to New York City? Were there ups? Were there downs? On the down days, what was the talk to bring you back up?
Well, the talk to bring me back up was I was just so darn happy to be here and be part of. I'm finally here. I've got high school and college out of the way. Let's go. Let's be part of this community. And I wasn't sure how I was going to be part of the community, but I just wanted to be in it. Okay. And with New York and me, I had sort of a toe in the water. Then the foot in the water, then the ankle in the water. You start with staying at on a friend's couch for a couple nights because you just did summer stock in New England together, and we're all here staying. You all share a tiny room at the Edison Hotel or something like that, and all of a sudden you're subletting from someone, and then you have roommates, and so it was sort of a gradual. I didn't just sort of dive in all at once. And again, a big reason it was sort of gradual was I would come and I was lucky enough to book things that took me out of town. I spent almost a year in Albany as an assistant director at the EGG. It's called the Empire State Institute for Performing Arts, as a former performing arts program there, and then I went to do one show in Tucson, Arizona, for a company called Southern Arizona Light Opera, and I wound up staying for a year and doing 4 shows and had a wonderful time there, and then was here for another month and booked a European tour and spent almost a year in Europe playing Will Parker in German production of Oklahoma, but having a wonderful, wonderful time.
Did you do it? Was it in German?
We would do the show in English, and then we would sing the finale. And Oklahoma, deine Felder wiegen sich im Wind. Frisch gemähtes Gras, glanzgrün und nass, wenn die Wolken fortgezogen sind. And then we did it in Italian as well. Oklahoma, ogni notte seduti col mio amore, guardiamo un falco che pigro volteggia, facendo cerchi su nel cielo.
Oh my God.
And so on. Played opposite the wonderful Carrie Butler in that. And it just became thick as thieves. We were Will and Ado Annie in that. And she was right out of college. God, she was a kid. And just had a great time and got to see Europe for free. And then all of a sudden it was, I had done these 3 long-term jobs and was by now knew enough people where I could move to New York and moved to New York.
Wow. Now, okay, so through all of this, what are you learning about work ethic and approaching roles and like the just general work ethic of getting yourself prepared?
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared. Do the homework. Know what you're auditioning for. Know who you're auditioning for. Don't go in, all cocky and stuff. Just be you. And that was something that took a while. I used to treat it as a business transaction. I would go to every audition, and I roll my eyes now just to hear myself talk about it, in a shirt and tie, treating it like a job interview, because my dad was a banker, and it was sort of grew up in the world of journalism and everything. Just treating it like it's a business. I'm going to treat it like a business. That whole thing, and so that was something I always did. But yeah, I just would go audition for anything I could and see anything you can. Go to good theater, go to bad theater, do good theater, do crappy theater, off Broadway. You just learn, and I think having a temp job that allowed me, as long as I gave them a certain number of hours a week, they were happy, because I was in an office, remember, mostly with either editing or data entry or data processing or something. And as long as I had those skills and could promise them a certain number of hours, I was free to come and go to any auditions I wanted to, as opposed to, oh my God, no one can cover my shift, I can't go to that audition.
That's a great job.
Which can screw you. Yeah. So
okay,
just go and surround yourself with positive people and see everything you can.
Surrounding yourself with positive people. Had you ever surrounded yourself with negative people?
Well, not on purpose.
Well,
but
yeah.
Certainly there are those dark clouds where you sort of know early in rehearsal where it's like, well, won't be hanging with that one for very often. Especially in a situation where you're out of town or it's a tour situation and you're all sort of stuck together. You sort of have to pick your people, and those people can rotate. Like you can say, well, that was a fun group to hang with for a while. I'm going to hang with this group for a while. Yeah. But it's also, especially on tour, it's about sort of mental preservation. It can become a very artificial world, and you need to remember that you have a life at home, and that is more important than this sort of college bonus round you can get yourself into the attitude of a lot of times on tour.
Is it a balance for you between being alone and around people? Or was it, I should say, in the past with tour?
I sort of really protect my alone time as much as I can. I think it's really important just to read, or even if it's just mind meld or mind flush, so to speak, on the internet. I really believe in alone time. For me anyway, it's super important, as important as sleep. Now, that said, I'm an incredibly social person with some wonderful friends who I absolutely love spending time with. But I do try to protect certain times of the week, like being in an 8-show-a-week schedule. I protect my Thursdays and Fridays as much as I can. Okay. To I want to go to that museum or see this, or let's just
and by yourself.
Do that. Yeah, if I can't find someone who's as interested in something as I am. Like right now, there's a Velvet Underground thing about the downtown that I'm dying to go see, and it looks like I'm going to have to go by myself.
I'll go with you if you don't want to go by yourself.
Okay.
There you go. And it's
love
on
that.
record. No, I'm interested. I find that very important to talk about alone time because I learned that moving into the city. It is very important. I needed it more than college, high school, home.
So
hometown.
important.
It's so necessary.
And having a roommate situation early on, even though I had the best roommates you could ever ask for, who remain very close friends of mine to this day, which is saying something for the fact that we basically all lived on top of each other for a year or two. It's really hard to get your alone time. Another thing I really tried to do and knew was important in terms of my living space, whether it was just one little bedroom or the whole apartment, was to make it as much of a home as possible. And that doesn't mean have all really nice things and everything. It just means usually there's one door to the apartment. Treat it like a front door, not a back door. You know what I'm saying? Don't let your crap pile up there, and have it be a place where when you walk in, you're walking into a nice place. Like, I'm home. Not just like, well, there's that crap I've got to deal with as soon as you walk in. Yeah. And I know not everyone's living situation really allows for that, but that really changed my life. There's one door to the apartment. Treat it like a front door, not a back door.
I love that. I know, as funny as that sounds, because no one talks about apartment health. Keep your apartment clean for your mental health. I didn't have the
Cats poster up or anything like that. I wanted a place that was separate from the business. As much as I love the business and have always loved the business, and even its ups and downs, it's part of it.
Yeah.
Because the ups are worth it. That being so surrounded with it, with like there's show posters everywhere and memorabilia everywhere, you can just get drowned in that stuff. And I wanted a sort of a neutral zone where I could just really decompress and not be surrounded by it, so that when I am surrounded by it, it still invigorates me and still excites me, and it's something I still want to dive into.
Yeah. Did you or do you have any mentors?
Absolutely. My mentor. Well, currently my mentor is the genius Orson Bean, who is a well-regarded actor, comedian, raconteur. He was the most frequent guest host of The Tonight Show during the Johnny Carson years. And I was so lucky that about 10 years ago, Chris Gattelli, the director, put Orson and I together in a show up at Goodspeed where we were sort of a frickin' frack kind of team. And it just unleashed so many things in both Orson and myself. And his wife and my partner are best friends, and we've stayed with them there. They've stayed with us here. It's just been such a wonderful friendship. Yeah. And I think he is a genius, and all I want to do is listen to him talk and tell the same jokes over and over again, because I promise you will laugh every time. And I marvel at people who can do that. David Hyde Pierce is like that too. We'd be in rehearsal for Curtains, where of course he was the star of the show, and every single time we knew what was coming, and we would still laugh because he would just put it so perfectly in the pocket. The actress Caroline O'Connor is like that as well. Yeah. She can find that pocket and put that punchline or joke into it like nobody else. I know I'm jumping all over here a bit.
That's what we're going to do. So it's fun.
But so of people I know, Orson, certainly.
What big standout lessons, things he's taught you about the business? Or
enjoy it. Just enjoy the journey and be you, and know that you are your own secret weapon. And this is something I teach my students when I'm either doing a master class or when I'm an adjunct. I've previously been an adjunct at different colleges. That you are your own secret weapon. There is no other you. Don't try. Well, this is a lot of branches to this conversation. Yeah. First of all, someone else's success is not your failure. It was their turn. Who knows what they were thinking when they were casting it? They went their way this time. It'll go your way another time. Yeah. Someone else's success is not your failure. You just do you. Go in and be prepared for an audition, for rehearsal, and bring the best you possibly can. And just so you know that when you don't get that job, you did everything you could. It's the auditions where you go home and you beat yourself up because damn it, I blew it because I wasn't prepared. Or sometimes, this has bit me in the butt once or twice, I was over-prepared. I was so prepared that they gave me an adjustment, and I couldn't do it because I had rehearsed
I know what you're talking about.
so much my way, my crazy John Bolton in his living room way, with the dogs watching me, wondering what the hell I'm doing, that I couldn't take the direction. Leave that window open. I call it leaving the window open just a little bit so that when they give you an adjustment of some sort that you can take it. But be prepared when they give you those 3 scenes to learn for tomorrow. Cancel your plans and look at them. You don't need to be completely off book, but at least be off book for the 2 or 3 important sentences that they're really going to be looking at you for. Yeah. Dress appropriately, wear something nice, iron those pants if you're going in for a suit guy. I do a lot of suit guys now that I'm, of the age to play the suit guys. So, wear a nice suit, invest in a nice suit that you only wear to auditions. And so it doesn't get, crap from a party on it. This is I am a lawyer and you're attorney general or whatever, and this is my audition suit, and here you go. But invest in you. It's worth the investment. Invest in being the best you possibly can. You are the only person in the world who can bring who you are and what your life is into an audition room. No one else can do that. Yeah, sure. Sometimes people can sing better, or you look at them, oh my God, he's so handsome, or she's so beautiful, or wow, they're so castable because they're so exotic, or whatever. Yeah. Tough. They're not you. Who cares? They're looking at you going, oh my God, look at that person. I wish I was that person. Mm-hmm. Get out of your head with that crap. I used to bring to auditions crossword puzzle. So I would just blow through a crossword puzzle just to focus. And now I sort of like seeing people I know. And once I sort of assess the fact that they're not trying to prepare and you're just talking their ear off, you want to be respectful of that as well. I like just sort of chatting with, how you doing? How's the wife, the kid, the dog? Talk about something that's just sort of soothing and normal, and that can sort of lower the stakes when you walk in that room. And when you walk in that room, don't give them all the power. Give yourself some power. They're looking for someone. They've called you in, or you're walking in if it's an EPA. And believe me, I did the EPAs when I was up at 6 a.m. and in those lines like you wouldn't believe. And I still see some of the same people who I'm happy to say have also done very, very well. And you sort of smile and go, EPA guy, I remember you in line at 6 a.m. You with your Tony now. Look at you. But what was I saying? I don't even see. I lost my train of thought there. But when you go in the room, don't give them all the power. You're trying to figure out if there's a nice fit here. And don't cast the people behind the table as the enemy. Right. They want you to be good. Yeah. If they're looking at their papers, who cares? Yeah. Maybe they're looking to see how tall you are. Are you going to fit into that? Or are you going to work opposite the girl they've already hired to be this part? Or maybe they're tired and they're looking at what they're going to have for lunch because they're about to pass out. Yeah. Maybe they're eating their lunch. Don't hold it against them.
What was the self-talk you use before auditions? How do you deal with nerves? If you have them.
Go in and do your best and don't have the reason you didn't get the job be your fault. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to go. I'm confident. I'm going to go in. I know the law. I'm not going to say it out loud, meaning then because you don't want to jinx anything. But you're like, well, chances are I'm probably not going to get this job because that's the way it works. You have to get the no's out of the way before you can get a few yeses coming in. And then there's still going to be no's until another yes comes in. But you just have to do everything you can. And you do have the power to go into that room and not have it be your fault that you didn't get that job. And that feels so much better. That is so much easier to live with than I blew it. I blew that. I got nervous. I went for that note I shouldn't have. I sang something I hadn't rehearsed with the accompanist prior. That can blow everything. Always rehearse it with someone. If you're singing a new song, don't just assume it's going to be exactly like you think it is on the, on iTunes or whatever. Rehearse it. Spring for that $60 for an accompanist and do it. This is a profession. Go in and do your best and show them your best. Because when you don't get that part, they'll be able to go, well, you didn't get that, but who was that guy that we liked from that? Let's bring him in for this one. Yeah. And then you won't get that one, but you'll do a good job at that one too. And then they'll go, let's bring him in for this. And then it's your turn to get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
This is great. You're bringing up really great points. Do you have a favorite story of life happening for you?
Life happening for me, gosh. Well, it's kept me out of some jobs I'm glad I didn't do.
Okay.
But
Okay.
life happening for me was my quick association with Spamalot. I did it in Chicago, and then did the first 6 months of the run here as the standby to Tim Curry, David Hyde Pierce, and Hank Azaria. And it was basically, I wanted to go in for a role, and they said, no, Mike Nichols is only seeing 40 people total. You didn't make the list, sorry. But we know you stand by for things, have done so before, and you're good at it. Would you consider doing it? And at the time, I had another show that was going to come in, another one with Carrie Butler, oddly enough, called The Opposite of Sex. And I said, no, I don't want to stand by. I want to start to play the roles now, because I'd gotten some confidence, and I think gotten better. I think anytime I've understudied a part, it's made me better. I never thought, I should be playing this. I thought, no, here's a chance to be better. And guess what I get to do? I get to play that role for a week or 2 or 3 or whatever the vacation or leave of absence is, or whenever this random sick day is. I really sort of tried to embrace that as best I could and take it as the learning experience it was. But in terms of life happening for me, Spamalot. So Spamalot is now cast. It's all of a sudden this big, huge, fancy thing that no one knew it was going to be so big and fancy with all these big names attached. And they called me, and I had just found out that this show that I was going to come in with in a role was not happening at all. And they called and said, if you come in, we've just let the standby go. If you come in and shake Mike Nichols' hand, this job is yours. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Because now it's Tim Curry, and now it's Hank Azaria and David Hyde Pierce. I'm going to go in and learn from these people and only sign for 6 months, and if they'll let me, and they did. And boy, that was just quick education in 3 completely different styles of acting. And 3 completely different styles of leading a company, all of which are valid and all of which were wonderful. But, I really gravitated toward David Hyde Pierce's style of leading the company, and was lucky enough to do curtains with him as well, just a year or so after that one, after Spamalot.
What were his styles of leading the company?
Be nice. Know everybody's name.
Yeah.
These are just basic things. I worked for San Francisco Opera a few years ago in their big old production of Showboat. Great old cast, huge cast. And I remember the opera singers coming in, and Kirsten Wyatt, who was playing opposite me, and I were talking about, now that's Mary, and that's Chloe, and one of the opera performers came up to her, who just, one of the principals coming in, said, you don't need to do that. You don't need to learn their names. So we're like, what? Of course we need to learn their names. I mean, there were 50 of them, but an attempt was made. Of course. You have to learn their names. You're working on stage with these people. These are the people, next to you, behind you, in front of you. Sometimes they're, making you look good, that you're going to make them look good to the team. Learn their damn names. But David just led in a very gentle and yet assertive way of, here's our team. And here we go. And that just sounds incredibly vague, and I feel like I'm doing disservice to an amazing human being. But you just work with him, and your mouth is open with a half smile, just going, I just want to be you. I just want to spend all my time around you, because he's so positive. And yet when it was time to do the job, boy, that job got done. In the most professional, respectful way possible. And there he was every night. You'd have, can my friends are big Frasier fans? Can they? Well, of course, bring them to the... Here's a man doing 8 shows a week. Same happened with Jerry Lewis. I was lucky enough to do Damn Yankees with Jerry Lewis, 73 years old at the time. And no matter who was at the show, he'd say, bring them back. I'd be proud to meet them. And here's this guy with this huge career, and I'm in the chorus of Damn Yankees, and he'll just meet anybody we put in front of him, pour him a glass of wine, and take an interest, and talk about John, and find something to talk about. David did the same thing, and it never, ever came across as insincere, or I'm just being nice, and actually I need to go home. And, it was always just, he's a real guy. He's a real good guy. And hopefully not in a fake way. I try to do things like that, because I learned that from Jerry, and I learned that from David, and I also think I learned it from my mom and dad. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice to people. Make them feel like they're part of it. They are part of it.
Yeah. Is there a role that has taught you the most about yourself?
About myself personally?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, A Christmas Story. There's blood and sweat and 5 years of 5 years of that, and of course that iconic film that A Christmas Story, the movie, when it came out in 1985, it was not a huge success. It wasn't until years later, possibly almost a decade later, when all of a sudden it was on TV all the time, that people really knew it. Yeah. But once in a while at a college party or something, you'd find someone that knew that movie, and you would glom onto that person like crazy because you could just talk about it and quote it and everything. I remember seeing it in the theater, an almost empty theater in Rochester with my dear friend Lori, and I can still remember the exact moments we laughed out loud. Anyway, years later, it's a musical, and I'm entrusted with this iconic performance of Darren McGavin and as the dad, and they let me really hammer away at making it as much of my own as I could, with an acknowledgement to Darren McGavin and an acknowledgement to my own dad, who was dying at the time. And brief, very sad aside, passed away on opening night of A Christmas Story. I found out at intermission. That was nice, doing a story about father and a son, but. Not unexpectedly, by the way. It was sad and unexpected. But anyway, so just the whole father-son thing with that show, learning from that, having a series of wonderful actresses playing the wife in that. I had the absolutely divine soulmate, Erin Dilly, the spectacular Rachel Bay Jones as my wife one year. Ann Nathan was my wife one year. Ann Allgood was my wife in Seattle. And just having these salt-of-the-earth, amazing women, 4 different women who all contributed to my performance as that. And I would take a little one from this one, a little one from that one, a little one from this, and just use that as my strength. So I learned about the generosity of all 4 of those actresses contributed to my performance in that. And then having these great kids, this revolving door of these amazing kids playing Ralphie, and and plus the film is just so sacred to people, and I feel like they got it right. I really feel like Benj and Justin, who wrote the score, magnificent score, and that Joe Robinette, who did the script, and our director John Rando and Eric Rosen the first year, got it right. The tone, the heart, and I was a part of that, and I think that's the one that I hold up as, hey, I helped make that happen, and there's a lot of me on that stage and a lot of my own dad.
How did you complete the second act on opening night?
Well, because I knew I had to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. Was that all it was, really, though? It was like, I just have to do this. That's that.
Well, it hit me hard. I saw the text from my brother. We just put my dad in hospice. Sorry, everybody. It's a little sad. And they'd said, about 3 months. Well, it was 3 days later. And I saw the text at intermission from my brother. It's like, he's just telling me how dad's settling in. And I had just said, gone to Rochester to make sure he was okay and everything. But I just sort of read the text and went, welp, we're going to finish the show and then go to opening night and be interviewed by people and try to put on a smile and talk about the show. And I made up my mind that I wasn't going to say. It wasn't until a long time later that I even told anybody that they found out eventually, but in terms of the public, I didn't discuss, my father died on opening night, because it's not the kind of thing you want to really hear. Unless you're listening to this podcast, you poor soul.
And
I'm so sorry. I have so many happy things that have happened to me. Hopefully we'll talk about those.
We're mostly talking about it. I'm just curious about the determination to keep going through something like that, because that's like, that tests character. That tests will. That tests it.
I took it as an honor. How lucky I am that I get to do this piece about a father and a son, at least from my standpoint, and I get to tuck in the kid every night and think about my own dad. Yeah. And channel my own dad on a couple lines. And when the audience there were a couple things that it was literally my dad, Keen Bolton, on that stage, when I would do a couple different lines, and the audience would just roar, and I would just think, thank you, Dad. That's you. Yeah. That was your laugh.
Yeah. Okay. Are there has there been any changes recently or in the past that have increased positivity and decreased negativity?
I think having animals helps. I love my dogs. I love my partner. I love our home. Our homes, we've got a very small place upstate that is just our sanity. It's a little place in the middle of the woods, and we live in Midtown Manhattan. So you know, at my age now, I'm just happy that I can get away doing. I love every moment of Anastasia. I love working in Midtown. I love doing a Broadway show.
Yeah.
And walking into a Broadway stage door or out of it every night has never gotten old for me, ever, ever. I know how lucky I am to be there and to be doing it. And it was what I dreamed of when I was a kid. I just wanted to do one Broadway show, you know, and we're 10 later. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, did you ever think that you would get to this level of
No,
performing?
I wanted to do one. Again, I didn't study it in college, and went doing summer stock with all these amazingly talented people who did study it. I was like, well, I'm screwed because they're just so amazing. And they've got all this technique, and they can really dance and really sing. And I was kind of like, well, I could sort of dance and kind of sing, and I knew I wanted to be funny and act. I always wanted to act. The acting was what I wanted to do the most, but I could sing, and so I wound up doing just musicals, and all of a sudden it's years later, and now it's, oh, he's a musical guy. So I try to do one talkie a year, you know. but
Okay.
the TV has been an outlet for that. But wait, what was the question was about? Did I know I wanted to?
Yeah, did you always know you'd be performing at this level?
No, I wanted to do one,
Did you always
and then
want to?
go back to journalism or whatever was safe. Move back to Rochester, do whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then it just kept going, and we're still here. So I know how lucky I am.
Deciding to do one, was that back there in 6th grade, or did that come like after college?
I would
somewhere in
say
between?
once I knew people that had been in Broadway shows, it wasn't this totally unreachable thing, because I was like, well, she did one, he did one, he did one, and well, why can't I just be in one? There were bigger casts then, and it was like, well, I could do one. And and my first one was going to be this show called Paper Moon, and we were out of town at the Paper Mill Playhouse, and it was a beautiful show based on the film with Ryan and Tatum O'Neill, and great score by Larry Grossman and Carol Hall, and a great book by Marty Casella, Alan Johnson choreographing, Matt Casella directing, great cast. In the chorus with me was Brooks Ashmanskas, Christopher Sieber, Ruth Gottschall, Mary Stout, just the greatest people like ever. And then we thought it was a good show. And Renee Elise Goldsberry was in that. Chandra Wilson was in it. Christine Ebersole, Gregory Harrison. Just the greatest cast. John Dossett, Linda Hart. Great cast. And we didn't come in. It wound up being a crappy season. I still think we should have come in and probably could have snagged a few Tony nominations certainly for musical, book, and score, because it wound up being a really weak season. But we didn't come in. It was a heartbreaker, and our marquee was up at the Marquee Theater right in the middle of Times Square.
They had it up.
I remember when the New York Times ad came out. Brooks Ashmanskas and I each went and bought like 5 copies of the big heavy Sunday Times ad that had our names in it. We're literally carrying these huge, the papers were enormous then, thick, the Sunday one, standing in front of the marquee. I still have these photos. I got to find them, post them or something, of us going, hey, under the marquee. Well, when we didn't happen, Damn Yankees had been at the Old Globe and had been quite a success. And when Paper Moon was suddenly, dead in the water, Damn Yankees snapped our theater. And I remember when that marquee went up and they took ours down, it was just, after not even going into rehearsal for Broadway, we found out 2 days before rehearsal, got a nice buyout, but that was it. But then it was like, fuck you, Damn Yankees, we hate you, And then the wonderful Michael Winther, who's become a good friend, was in the ensemble of that show, left early to do some other work, and I went in and borrowed music from a friend and booked it. So, I mean, it was just
like that.
It was one of those random ones where, dude, we're meeting for lunch. We're in line at the open call for Damn Yankees. And I said, they didn't pick me up. My agents at the time had submitted me for that replacement track. And I hadn't been picked up. And I thought, well, they don't want to see me. So I might as well not go, but I'll meet my friends for lunch. And they was like, dude, we signed you up. And I went in, borrowed music. It was a song I knew, Hushabye Mountain, and How You Gonna Keep 'Em Down on the Farm After They've Seen Paris, which I happened to know. Because the character was the Southern baseball player. And Jay Binder, who I didn't know at the time, I walked in, and it was just one of those where it was my day. It was my turn. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, it was my turn to get the job. And there behind the table was Cynthia Onrubia and Rob Marshall and Jack O'Brien. And Alan Hall was the stage manager that I had just done Paper Moon with. And Rob Marshall turned to Alan Hall. He told me this later and said, can he dance? Because, it's Damn Yankees. It's pretty significant dancing.
Yeah.
And Alan said, yes, because of what little choreography there was in Paper Moon, I did. Yeah. And with gusto, apparently. And so that saved me the possibility of being cut from a dance audition. And I went in and did Damn Yankees for a year on Broadway. And to this day, it is the most joyous time of my life. It was my first Broadway show. And I remember bowing on opening night. My opening night, remember, was 3-4 months into the run, more maybe. And I'd been rehearsing with the goddess Cynthia Onrubia and the amazing David Chase on piano in a room like where we are now, Clay. Just us. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I had one put in rehearsal, and guess what, Bolton, you're on Broadway. And I just remember forbidding anyone I knew from seeing it that night because I wanted to make sure it was good. And it was a private moment, and I went home and read the program and kept looking at my name on the title page and just thinking, wow, look what happened. And all I could think of was that kid that got the cast album of On the 20th Century for Christmas and jumped up and down and was so excited. And his two big brothers who, got hockey sticks and stuff were just like, whatever, And all I could think of was that kid was on Broadway. And it just made me so excited. And I tell you, it's still not old for me. That never, ever gets old.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
And keeping that attitude is been easy because I'm still starstruck. Anyone I meet from particularly childhood, like Judy Kay is in our show now. Oh my God, I saw you on the 20th Century. What was that like? What was Madeline Kahn like? What was John Cullum like? I totally freak out. Or when I met Andrew McArdle, I almost passed out. Like literally almost passed out when I met the original Annie. Because I would listen to her and blow my voice out trying to sing like her. And harkening back to those Mickey Mouse Club kids, I've actually met a couple and I think frightened a couple of them as an adult, even though I'm like, on TV and doing occasional Broadway shows and they knew it. I was like, I think I'm scaring them right now. I think I need to not, I think they need their space right now. Yeah.
What was your transition into film then?
Oh my God. Well, very little with film, but in terms of TV, it was tough when I was younger. The business has changed a bit. First of all, more TV shoots here now, and thank goodness. But I don't know whether it was my age or there was just a real snobbery against anyone that had anything to do with musicals. In the 90s, you could barely get arrested. Maybe a soap would call you in, if they needed random people. But in terms of the TV work, people did not take you seriously. Oh no, we need a real actor, and that was hard to deal with, to the point where I was like, well, screw you. I'm working full time in theater. I've got my insurance. I'm happy. I'm not going to pursue it, and so I didn't really. And then it just sort of started falling in my lap as I got older, and I started looking better in the suits, I guess. But I think also the business changed, and I think people are now more so embracing the theater folk as hardy types who will show up and do the work, and they know we want the work, and bring something different to it. We bring a theater work ethic to it, which I think is very strong. I'm very proud of a theater, in general, the theater work ethic. You want to smack a lot of the younger ones coming out of some of the theater programs where maybe they've been coddled a bit too much. Then it's sort of like, you want them to learn a little bit, but.
Coddled in what way?
Oh, you're so great. Oh, you're going to be a star.
Got it.
And even working with kids, I did Annie and, Christmas Story certainly, and production of Music Man and stuff where there's, often you're going to work with kids. And so often you hear the parent just sort of patting the kid's head, oh, she's going to be a star. She's our little star. Don't say that to a child, ever. You can say, you are so talented and we're so proud of you. But I have seen so many young people grapple with that as they reach the awkward age and then their 20s. And then guess what? You're not a star. And you feel like you have disappointed your entire family, or that you're a failure in some way, that you've had it in your head that you're going to be a star. And it plants just false things that I never thought that. I never thought I'm going to be a star. I thought, what I want to do? I want to work in that industry. And I just want to work with these people and be around these people who inspire me and make me laugh, and listen to that overture that gives me goosebumps every single night, and be in the room where that happens. And on my offstage scenes, go down to that orchestra pit and be in that orchestra pit and hear it. And watch from the wings as Caroline O'Connor and those amazing kids stop the show every night with You'll Shoot Your Eye Out. Or watch from the wings as Aaron Dilley breaks every heart in the house, and not just sit in my dressing room You know what I mean? I watch on the monitor the end of Act 1 of Anastasia about every other performance because I've got two views. I've got the view of our conductor and the front row that you can see the front row, the face of the front row behind them. And then I've got the view of the stage and Christy Altomar belting out the last few notes of Journey to the Past while the set does that amazing transition. There's that gorgeous Paris skyline that Aaron Ryan designed so magnificently. And it's just a goosebump moment. Yeah. I make sure I watch that moment about every other performance. To watch the audience. I just watch. She's going to lose it. I'll point to a specific girl and go, watch her, she's going to cry. And then she'll burst into tears. Or this guy will turn to his wife and just sort of pat her and be like, yeah, isn't that nice? I love watching that. And we are a part of that. Yeah. And I'm a part of that. And I'm thrilled about that.
That's absolutely beautiful. That's beautiful. In terms of teaching, what points do you focus on when you're teaching?
Hit your mark and tell the truth.
Okay.
That's the billboard. Hit your mark and tell the truth. I'm fine. Is the big thing. Be you are your own secret weapon.
Yeah.
Are my mantras. And usually, I don't just repeat that a million times, but we do work where I like the one where they've prepared something for me that I've assigned or that they've come up with. Yeah. And then we watch it and then we talk, we discuss a few things. And I love asking the class, what did we like about that? Let's say, what did we like about that? There was a lot of nice things in that. What did you like about that? Therefore, the first thing that we're doing isn't tearing down. The first thing we're doing is finding things we liked about what they did. And oftentimes I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what I'm going to say. This is not great. This child should not be in this program, or at least clearly didn't work on this material. But and I have said, you didn't give that one your best, did you? And then we talk about doing your best. But usually it's fine, and we talk about what did we like about that, so that the first thing we do is spin it positive. We do the compliment sandwich. We do the nice things, then we go to work, and we're going to talk about, you're going to stand up a little straighter. We're going to do this. What's the most important line in that? You're going to shoot that out. We talk about the nitty-gritty of it, and then we end with a compliment. But you bring such a beautiful quality to it, so let's really, really embrace that quality that you bring to it.
Yeah.
And so compliment sandwich, we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's cover books real quick here, if possible. Favorite books that you've read, books that you gift, most gifted?
Is that in terms show business related? Or?
Show business, fiction, nonfiction, whatever. I mean, it can be really anything.
Well,
like all-time faves.
Gosh, all-time faves for me are, classic fiction or... I love a good schlocky true crime book too that's well researched and isn't just putting forth some ridiculous hypothesis. I will tell you, I regret, and I'm so glad I was able to tell the author who just passed away, William Goldman, but I will regret never being able to read The Princess Bride for the first time again. I know everyone knows the film. It was obviously a book beforehand. And like A Christmas Story, the film, before everyone knew it, there would always be a small group of people at cocktail parties in the early 80s before the movie came out that oh my God, you read The Princess Bride. Let's talk about this and talk about that. A movie that I'm like that about with right now is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I'm obsessed with it. Absolutely obsessed with it. I want it to win every award in sight, and I'm shocked that it's not getting more nominations. But you find someone who's seen The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and you're like, oh my God. Let's talk about that last scene. Let's talk about this. It just becomes this little group of people that know this amazing thing. But William Goldman wrote The Princess Bride, and of course he also wrote The Season, which follows the, I believe it's 1967-68 Broadway season, show by show by show, and it is absolutely required reading. It is hilarious. It is heartbreaking. It's called The Season. It's taught at so many universities, and it's a little non-PC now. If it were written today, you wouldn't use some of the words they use. But in terms of an insider view of the industry, as opinionated as it is spot on, and it's really great. So The Season, Uta Hagen, Respect for Acting.
Classic.
So classic.
Okay.
There's those, but I love the class. I love, Dostoevsky. I'm going to be all, crazy, and Capote and stuff. Just love my classics. Vonnegut, can't beat him.
Yeah. How do you start your day?
Well, hopefully by waking up.
Hopefully. And when you do.
There's usually a dog pressed against me in some way, shape, or form that makes me not want to get up because they are the perfect temperature.
What's your dog's name?
I have Dallas, who is a Brussels Griffon, and we have Baku, who is a handicapped shepherd mix from Azerbaijan, and he's named after the capital city of Azerbaijan. They did a great trade with the Humane Society here in New York. He was there. No one would adopt him. Yeah. Bill Berloni, the animal trainer, who's become a very good friend of ours, and his wife Dorothy as well, said, we've got this great dog. No one will adopt him. Will you come look at him? Because he knew our other big dog, Roz, who passed away many years ago. And he said, similar demeanor to Rosie, and I just he's handicapped, but I think this is a good fit. And we love him, and now I can't imagine life without him.
Oh.
But so usually the day starts with always coffee. I'm on the half calf now because I enjoy 6 cups of coffee instead of 2.
French press, espresso,
I do the
Keurig
drip.
pot.
I hate the Keurig. It tastes like a machine to me. I like I love the routine of measuring out the just sloppy big spoons into the drip.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And we have the grinder, so hopefully fresh ground.
Oh, wonderful.
But love that. And we live across from a great bakery, so usually it involves a trip over there and sweats. But because we have dogs, early in the morning is usually a dog walk of some sort. So.
Do you work out?
Yes, I go to the gym. Less to be, not to be something I am not, but to just maintain.
Yeah.
And, I lost 20 pounds doing Anastasia because my role is very physical, and I've enjoyed that. Hey, I feel a little better right now. And so I have never, ever regretted going to the gym. As difficult as it is to go, I got to put on a thing and walk all the 2 blocks and get on the machines and deal with that. And if I can get past that, which is, I'd say, 3/4 of the time, I have never once, on my way home from the gym, never once regretted. I'm always like, I'm so glad I went. Good. So just go to that audition. It's a a snowy day. I got to put on boots and find a sub for work. I don't care. Find a way to go to that audition. If it's a show you want to do, go. Just do it.
Yeah. Common piece of incorrect advice. Is there anything that comes to mind, a common piece of incorrect advice you hear in your field?
Incorrect. Incorrect advice. Thank you 5 is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Thank you 15. Thank you 10. Thank you 20. Thank you half. Thank you 5. If someone teaches you to say that, you went to a shitty school. That's all I'm saying.
I'm laughing hard. Why? Why such?
It's
why
just
such
because everyone else in the room is secretly rolling their eyes at you because it kind of means I don't know. I'm being petty, and people that do say that, I know the intent behind it is a very positive one. But let me tell you, as the old guy in the room, we all just secretly roll our eyes at you. Just say thank you. Thank you's enough. Just say thank you. Yeah. But incorrect advice, God. I don't know. Gosh, I don't know.
I mean, what you just said is pretty damn
It's
good.
pretty petty, and I'm sorry, everybody. But
no, I wouldn't call it petty. I mean, it's funny because there are certain things, like everyone wants to be courteous as all outdoors.
Well, you should be
especially
courteous.
in the rehearsal room. But when it goes too far to a point where it's just like...
Be genuine courteous. Be real courteous. Be you. Learn everybody's name. Warm up. Do your thing. Don't say bad things about people in your show. It can become quickly a toxic environment. If the whole cast is going out for dinner, put in more than what you know you owe. That is a big one. This is the teller clay. First day out of town. Oh, yeah, the cliques haven't formed yet, so you can't really exclude anybody. So everyone's going out to eat. You get the big table, and everyone shows up. I guarantee you, if the check is short, the show's going to stink. If the check is way over, you have got a hit show. Because it means you're surrounded by people who are pulling more than pulling their weight. Because there's always someone at the table. Well, I'm in. It's like, well, guess what? You're not. Did you add tip? Did you add more than 15% tip? There's always someone there. So put in more than you know you owe. And that applies to your performance as well. Do the choreography. Don't complain when you're not in front. If it's a developing piece, you're going to wind up in front at some point. It's not the be all end all. If they cut your line, who cares? It hurts. Yeah, maybe your little joyous arc is a little different, but the arc of the show is probably better. So, take the things, and this is something I've learned here. This goes under what you've learned as someone who in Titanic had a large portion of my role cut in previews and before previews even, was that, yeah, it hurts, but it's for the good of the show, and you need to learn to see that. And when a director gives you a note, it's not a personal attack. It's for the good of the show. You see your little arc. They see the much bigger piece because they're out front watching it. You only are in charge of your little thing. And you can pick what you want to fight for, but pick one or two things and go for it and fight for it. But do it professionally and in private with the director, not in front of the whole company. You know, you pick choose your battles in terms of something that's been cut or a note you get or something. But do know that you see your little corner, they see the whole room.
Yeah, this is great. You might have just answered this next question, but metaphorically speaking, if you could put a word or a phrase on a billboard for millions of people to see, does anything come to mind?
For anybody to see regarding me or regarding just like how to do it?
Yeah, no, like so say right here on 8th Avenue, we put up a massive billboard, and you're just going to get a message out to all the people walking down 8th Avenue for, this month. Is there anything that comes to mind, word or phrase?
Oh boy, well,
or quote or any.
Unfortunately, I'm afraid I'm going to make people think of our poor First Lady there, but I would say do your best. Show up and do your best.
Yeah.
Show up and do your best. Hit your mark and tell the truth. You are your own secret weapon.
It's a digital one. It flips.
Yeah, it does. I like
got
that.
3 or 4 in there.
Yeah, you have to wait for it to flip. And then there's an ad for, something else that you have to sort of suffer through.
Anastasia.
Okay, I'll take that ad. Hey, we're still there. Almost 2 years later, I'm having a blast. I love my role. I love the people I'm playing opposite with. I'm having a terrific time, and audiences are still digging it. So
yes, they are. And that's where we can find you.
I'm still there at the Broadhurst Theater, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. And social media, Twitter, Instagram.
I am at It's John Bolton.
Great.
On both of those. And I enjoy that.
Is there anything I left out? Anything you want to add before we wrap it on up here?
Oh, I'll think of it when I'm on my way home.
Great.
I say we get one life. Do your best.
Yeah.
Do your best. Because, that's all we can do. That's the only thing that you are in charge of in this life. Yes, shit happens, but do your best.
Yeah.
So that when shit happens, you can say, well, I tried.
That's so true. That's so true. This has been an absolute joy of a conversation, John. Thank you for taking the time.
Hey, sure, Clay.
With me.
And thank you for what you do, for putting positivity out there in our world that can be very difficult to navigate. We've all had our share of disappointments, and I'm sure I will have more. And things that spin the positive in a genuine way are very needed. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks for saying that.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Hey now.
John Bolton.
You've been listening to Entertainment X, the podcast. You can follow Entertainment X on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join Clay next week for another curiosity conversation on Entertainment X. Thank you for listening.